Today marks 1 year since the deadliest massacre in Israel's history, when Hamas launched a surprise attack, killing 1,200 people and taking more than 250 hostages. 1 year later, the fighting has spread from Gaza to Iran and to Lebanon. Over the last 24 hours, Israeli airstrikes lit up the skyline in Beirut. The IDF says Hezbollah fired over 100 projectiles towards the country. And just this morning, Houthis in Yemen launched surface-to-surface missiles at Israel. And here at home, with about 4 weeks to go until Election Day, both presidential candidates and their surrogates are crisscrossing the country. Vice President Kamala Harris marked October 7th in Washington by planting a memorial tree, while former President Trump visited the grave of a rabbi in Queens, New York, that some consider the holiest Jewish site in North America. Harris is also on a media blitz. This week on the docket, Howard Stern, Stephen Colbert, Univision, the Call Her Daddy podcast, and 60 Minutes. That CBS News interview airs tonight. 60 Minutes also offered former President Trump an interview, but he backed out after accepting. His campaign later denied they had ever accepted the invitation. We want to start in the Middle East. Chris Livesay is in Tel Aviv following the latest.
Well, Weija, today was a day of just somber reflection for the victims of those gruesome attacks 1 year ago on October 7th. It was remembered today throughout the country at a series of memorials. We were at the biggest one in Tel Aviv. It was organized by the families of the victims, of the survivors, of the hostages who are still being held in Hamas captivity. What was very deliberate was it had nothing to do with the government, which had its own commemorative event that was pre-taped and broadcast. This one instead was organized by the families, who are still quite upset with the government of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who they blame for allowing the events of October 7th to have happened to begin with because of the massive security breach that happened on Benjamin Netanyahu's watch, an intelligence breach, and also what they consider to be a leadership breach, something that just should never have happened if enough attention was being paid to Gaza, if there were enough IDF soldiers in the area. Instead, what Israel saw was the bloodiest day in the history of the Jewish people since the Holocaust. And that's something they still feel they're recovering from. You talk to virtually anybody in this country, and what they remember of that day, they'll tell you it was reopening that wound of the Holocaust. And it's something that, of course, they blame Hamas for, but they still haven't forgiven the government for allowing it to happen. Weija?
Chris Livesay, thank you. Nancy Cordes joins us now from the White House. Nancy, Harris is marking this solemn day while pushing Israel on getting a hostage deal done. And I wonder if a Harris administration would have an Israel policy that is different from Biden's.
She certainly speaks about Israel and Gaza a little differently than President Biden does. But as of right now, her campaign has not laid out any major policy differences going forward between her and the current president of the United States. But she does make sure to mention the Palestinians and their plight almost any time she speaks about the Middle East and speaks about the U.S. ally, that is Israel. For example, while she was planting that pomegranate tree on the grounds of the vice president's residence here in Washington, D.C. a short time ago, a pomegranate tree, by the way, symbolizes hope and good wishes in the Jewish faith. She said that the tree should not only serve to remind us that that peace is possible and is the ultimate goal, but also should remind everyone to seek the safety and security of the Palestinian people in Gaza.
And that tone was different even before she rose to the top of the ticket, which is certainly notable. In the 60 Minutes interview airing tonight, Harris spoke about the war in Gaza and Prime Minister Netanyahu. Take a listen.
Do we have a real close ally in Prime Minister Netanyahu?
I think, with all due respect, the better question is, do we have an important alliance between the American people and the Israeli people? And the answer to that question is yes.
So, Nancy, she sidestepped the question altogether. What do you make of her doing that?
Well, both she and President Biden, Weija, as you know, have from time to time been quite critical of Prime Minister Netanyahu, but they seem to like to choose their moments. And that certainly was one of those occasions. Obviously, by not wholeheartedly embracing him, by not saying, yes, he's an incredible and close ally, obviously her silence is speaking volumes. But she chose, at least in that instance, not to go a step further and criticize him, but instead to say that the U.S. and Israel writ large are important and longtime allies. The president and the vice president know that this is a relationship with Netanyahu that they need to preserve if they want to have influence on him going forward. And so there is this delicate dance that takes place where they sometimes feel that they can openly critique him, his leadership, his willingness or unwillingness to secure a ceasefire, and sometimes when they hold their tongue.
Nancy, you're right. We have watched both of them do this many times. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Well, you can catch the full interview with Vice President Harris tonight on 60 Minutes. It airs on CBS at 8 p.m. Eastern, and it will stream on Paramount Plus.